A Matter of Attitude by Dr. Madan Vashishta. Attitude or the development of it costs nothing, but changing an attitude is one of the most difficult things in the world. Our attitude shapes our behavior both as an individual and as a group. The attitude also feeds on itself and the resulting behavior of the recipients. People scale the Everest, dig deep under the ocean bed, fly into unknown spaces, and discover the impossible by developing a winning or positive attitude. Similarly, people end up in gutters with a losing attitude. The same goes for the rehabilitation and education of persons with disabilities. A societal change in attitude toward people with disabilities will resolve most of the problems caused by disabilities. Here, it is important to remember that problems are not caused by the disabilities, but the attitude toward the disabilities. A look at successful persons with disabilities clearly shows that it was the attitude, their own, their families, their friends, and that of society in general, that helped them overcome hurdles and emerge as heroes and role models to other persons, both with and without disabilities. When we feel pity for the disabled, we, with or without our knowledge, sow the seeds of dependence in their minds. When we respect them, we empower them to become independent. In the 19th and early 20th centuries, the attitude in the United States about the disabled was out of sight, out of mind. The idea was to send your children with disabilities to a faraway place and forget about them. The goal was to make sure that the family stigma was hidden and the dirty little secret was buried. The life of the person with disability was sacrificed to salvage the family name. How many persons with disability lived miserably and died unsung and unheard of in this way? We do not know and we do not want to know. These attitudes changed over time and spawned a number of slogans. Each of these slogans sounded wonderful, and the words that propagated these slogans were built around catching themes. These themes changed over time, but only after sacrificing still more lives. A lot of progress has been made in educating and rehabilitating our citizens with disabilities. However, we are still very much behind in these efforts. The main reason is the attitude. Attitude may have changed from out of sight to full inclusion, but that is mostly only on paper and in slogans. The inherent attitude is still the same. The disabled cannot. This they cannot is projected into self fulfilling prophecy and becomes an inherent behavior among the disabled. When the disabled were carted out to little towns or to the peripheries of cities to lead a life in glorified jails, the parents and guardians expected them to somehow live their lives in oblivion. Later, when the attitude changed and these children were mainstreamed, a lot of noise was made about providing equal services. However, these services were never equal. Persons with disability require a number of services to accommodate them on an equal basis. A blind student needs access to Braille so that he or she can read and write at the same level as his normal peer. An intellectually challenged person needs extra time, breakdown of tasks, tutoring and counseling to create a level field to compete with his or her peers. The same goes for persons with other disabilities. They were mainstreamed and then, with minimal support, were expected to do well. The well meaning and supportive parents saw this flaw in mainstreaming. They found that while the children were mainstreamed, they were also excluded from full participation. Hence came the term full inclusion. There are various definitions to show the difference between mainstreaming and full inclusion. Mainly, as the word full implies, Children with disabilities should have equal access to be able to meaningfully participate in all activities with their peers. Again, the key factor was missing here: support. A fully included deaf child who could not lip read and did not have access to an interpreter is actually fully excluded. Still, he was expected to fully participate in classes with his peers. The attitude has changed, but only on the surface. Children with disabilities are still being shortchanged. Barring a few exceptions, most educators and parents still have very low expectations. He speaks very well for a deaf person, or she reads pretty good for a mentally challenged person, are the comments that clearly illustrate this attitude of low expectations. The failure of special education illustrates this fact very clearly. I am not saying that the great advocates of persons with disabilities are not doing their job. They are trying. They are sincere and they do want these children to succeed. However, they all suffer without knowing it from the missionary attitude. The missionary attitude, as the name implies, is the attitude that missionaries had about natives. They wanted to help the natives. They made sacrifices and did the best to educate and help the natives. However, once a native showed real promise, they pulled back the help. The idea that a native could be as good as them was unacceptable. These missionaries took measures to make sure that the bright native did not learn too much to threaten their own superior status. Some readers might say that there are cracks in my logic. People with disabilities and natives are not the same. They may contend. A native might be much smarter than the missionary. That cannot be true with persons with disabilities. Pardon me, but your slip is showing here. There are people with deafness or blindness who are way ahead of the normal peers, but they are not involved at policy making levels in the government. How many deaf or blind individuals have high level positions in major government offices that make and implement policies on education of the deaf or the blind? How many intellectually challenged individuals are involved in support positions? Mr. Lal Advani was secretary of the Special Education Department a long while ago. Did any person with disability replace him? This is part of the whole attitude problem. How do we change this attitude? Let us go back to the missionary analogy. Let the natives take over. Involve persons with disabilities in the administration of programs that serve them. Involve them in making decisions that affect their destinies. Recognize the potential not with slogans but with offers of partnership at all levels. That is when education and rehabilitation of the disabled will take roots and wings. Some, perhaps, will say, but they are not ready for this. But then, that is an attitudinal issue.